All right, I'm finally back home with my mama. And mom, how do you feel about everybody calling me a brat?
Brat? I'd rather have a bright summer with my crazy eye.
So I've said this every single time I've been asked this question, and I'm not changing. I think, unpopular opinion, hot take, Mama B is playing the best game right now. No one's coming for her. Anytime she's talked about, it's like, I'm literally obsessed with her. I love her. She's in a good spot. Mama B's crushing right now. When it happens, just know I called it. This is such a good question. There was a day, I don't know how much of it was shown, where Kinsey was like going through her cookie recipe, and I was just kind of like socially exhausted. I mean, Angela had just like, days prior just tried to massacre me in front of all of America. So I was kind of like, man, I just kind of want to relax. And she was felt like a safe place to do so. And she just would not stop with this bit about her cookie recipe. And I'm sitting here like, Kenzie, like, nobody's watching, like, stop. And she just kept going. But it was really just us in there. And that was a good moment. Have you gotten to watch back what other house guests have said? Yes, and I have particularly watched back what a lot of them had to say about me, obviously. I'm going to kind of post a kind of like a more comprehensive overall 30,000 foot view thank you post tomorrow that I actually journaled out some thoughts and kind of used as my caption of overall view of the game. But I will kind of give this in this moment. You cannot fault anybody for anything that they say personally about anybody in the Big Brother house, in my opinion. I think it could give insight to who they are on the outside, but for the most part, it's a very, very difficult, unique experience. And people say things in that context of the game that they wouldn't say. And just because they may have said something personal to an extent, it does not disqualify how authentic and genuine the conversations that you also had were. So this is definitely something I did want to touch on because I do feel like this was a really important part of the game during the time in which I was in the house, and I don't know how much got to be shown, but for the most part, I didn't really get to see a lot of went down in a lot of that conversation, but definitely a lot of us noticed that they were talking outside. We knew that with certain house guests, tensions were rising, and all I know is when they came back inside, they're going at it, kind of at each other. And I tried to remove Lisa because as somebody who has been in the wake of that situation, I was like, hey, we don't have to sit through this. We don't have to listen to it. But she made the decision to go back. I removed myself. And all I know is when Lisa did come back into the room that I removed myself within, she was like, she literally told me to like, take my glitter and go sprinkle it, you little Tinkerbell, or like some variation of that. And I was just like, damn, like what? So the strays are still catching folks. If I opened any book already knowing how it was going to end, it would take away from the beauty of the story. And right now, this story is in chapter 1, and I don't know what will happen in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. But I'm excited to find out. 150%. I walked into the house, and it was like way more beautiful and impressive than I even expected. Like, you don't know what the themes are going to be. Like, they don't really give you any insight to that at all. But I walked in and was just like actually blown away at how beautiful just the aesthetic of the entire house was. So to whoever played into that, they freaking crushed it this season. I thought it was so dope. Like, the flower room was sick. The rock room was sick. The outside with the greenery kind of play and vibe, it was freaking dope. I loved it. So shout out to production or the decor team or the house team and whatever that team is. I think y'all freaking crushed it. This is a great behind the scenes question I feel like I can give some insight to. So obviously the show's called Big Brother, 24/7 feeds, a lot of cameras. That's the show, right? So they are literally cameras everywhere, like everywhere. And because of that, they have to keep the house cold in order that these cameras and all of the production equipment does not overheat. So the house is always cold. And I only had a gray hoodie, a brown hoodie, a black zip up, and y'all can see if you're watching where those are now. Oh my gosh, I love this question. Absolutely. If you guys can keep rallying, like, and putting that into the public sphere, I would appreciate it, because I would 150% go on any other show. I literally had the best experience on Big Brother, like getting on Big Brother, before being in the house, being in the house, leaving the house. Like, yo, I had the greatest experience. It was nothing like what I thought it would be. I loved it, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. No questions. This is a great question. It seems simple, but I think it's more complex than we think. Especially being the person in the moment, having to make that decision. I do not. I don't. I am okay with living my life, not always having to have the last word, because I'm confident in who I am. And I hope I displayed that. I hope that's encouraging to a lot of you out there. 70 times 7 is always the route I'm going to go. Yo, solid question, because this affected me so much. Not to say like I've got like bowel problems, but like it takes a while for you to like not be like poop shy, like when you're in the house, because you're like, yo, I don't want people hearing the wake of my splash like that. And then, but you're never gonna find a moment when there's like not anybody in the bathroom, and you're like, I just met these people, like, you know, getting your body to relax so you can like, is hard. And so when you have an HOH that, you know, creates a welcoming environment for people to enter in their room, then you can have two. We just had one. Yo, great question, considering the fact that like even right now, like some of Tucker's game is still being, you know, kind of affected by some things that I said or that I did. But let me set the record straight here. Like, Tucker is so freaking dope. Like, I love that guy, even though he like kind of slighted me a little bit. I totally leave it all in the past, nothing personal, because I truly thought Tucker was so cool. He's so unique. His voice is so dope. Like, I loved him. I really wish we had gotten the opportunity to not only like play with each other in the game, but like to compete against each other, and it'd be all love after. I wish we had that moment. But right now, like, one of the top people I'm excited to meet when they get out of the house, 150% is Tucker. I will fly immediately to visit him in New York and bro down with him. I freaking loved that guy. I'm a huge fan of him. Yeah, great question. I'm so glad somebody asked this. So obviously I talked a lot about my mom on the show. She's a hero of mine. Me going on Big Brother wasn't even really about my story. It was really to tell my mom's story. But my dad's story is that when my mom did come to the US and she had us pretty quickly after, and she stayed at home with us all day, it was because my dad worked the night shift every single night with a certain county in Georgia as a police officer. And so as a retired police officer, watching the way that Kenny cared for me in light of my dad being a police officer as well, that meant so much to my dad. He has asked me every day to get his contact information so he can send love to his family and Kenny when he gets back. I rock with Kenny all day in the game, outside of the game as well. Can't say thank you enough to what he did for me. Yeah, great question. Something I definitely want to touch on, and also just really like speak up on behalf of the other house guests, because I don't think that they didn't because they're bad people. I just I empathize with the situation that we're all in. So first week in the house, all you're thinking about is, how do I just not paint myself up like a piece of trash so that people like want me out because they just don't like me. And so maybe I should have taken my own advice, but I don't blame anybody. I think everybody truly thought, hey, behind closed doors, maybe in a not so public setting, I'll make sure. I will say every single person in the house at some point, besides one, came to me and said that they did not agree with what happened. And that meant a lot to me. I don't fault anybody for not sticking up, because at the end of the day, they're trying to stay in the game as long as possible. And ultimately, that's why I'm not in the house anymore. So all love for that situation. I think that's important to know.